Hey guys, so in this video I'll quickly explain Java methods and constructors. So I'll start off by making a sample script. So I'll create a class called student, and I'll give it some attributes like an int for height, an int for age, and an int for grade. So to create a student, we'll need to input these three things. So I'll have an int for height, for age, and for grade. And then we'll just set this dot height equal to that height, and so on. We can create some more things like public void set height, and this will just take in an int for height, and we'll set this dot height equal to that height. So up here, to mess around with this, we can create a student called Mark, and we'll make him equal to a new student with a height of 7 feet, 15 years old, and in grade 10. And we can set his height to 6. So it's one less. That's what set height does. We can also make more, like for example, public student reduce height. So this is not going to take in any parameters. It's just going to return a student. So this dot height is equal to this dot height minus 1, and then you return this object. So if you write mark dot reduce height, it reduces the height by 1. So if we print Mark's height, it should output 5, yeah, because it reduces it again by 1 after we change it to 6. So that's just a quick sample project. I'll also show you this task here as like a more complicated thing. So we have a fraction method which has two attributes. I'll just open up the answer here. Okay, we have a fraction class that has a numerator and a denominator, and we need to make a method that creates the product of two fractions as parameters. So you can input two fractions and it multiplies them together and then outputs a reduced fraction, which also has the minus sign in the numerator and not the denominator. So you also need a method that gets the absolute value of a fraction and also simplifies it and stuff. And then also a thing to check if it's positive. And this is a sample input, a sample output, and this is your main to test it. So my solution here, I'll go over it now. So this is just the main from there. It takes in two fractions, like 4 integers like this, and then turns them into two fractions. And then first it gets the product of both of them and prints it. Then it prints the absolute value of the second one, and then it checks if both of them are positive. It checks if the first one's positive and then the second one. So in the fraction class, this is the main meat of the code. You have a private numerator and denominator, and this is to just create the fraction. You input those two, like we did before with the student. And then here, this gets the product of them. So it multiplies both of their numerators and then it multiplies both of the denominators. So in this example, it multiplies -4 by 5, and then that's the numerator. And for the denominator, it's 10 times -4. So that's the answer it comes up with. And then we simplify the fraction, and then we also fix the negatives. So if the numerator and denominator are both negative, they shouldn't have a negative sign. They should just be both positive. And I'll go over how we do this in a second. So then for the absolute value, first we fix the negatives, and then we return the absolute value of the numerator and the denominator, and we also simplify it. So this is just pretty simple code here. For the check for is positive, we fix the negatives first, and then we just check if the numerator is positive. And if it is, we return true. If not, we return false. To print it, we first simplify and fix negatives, and then we print out this dot numerator slash this dot denominator. So now this is the interesting stuff, the simplify and fix negatives. For simplifying, I know there's probably a simpler way to do this, but I just loop through each number starting at the denominator and going down one. And if the denominator and numerator can be divided by that number and have 0 as a remainder, then that's the greatest common factor. And divide both by that number and then return that. So it just simplifies it. Like, for example, if you have 40 over 20, it simplifies it to 2 over 1. Because the greatest common factor is 20, so it divides both by 20. 40 divided by 20, 20 divided by 20, and it's 2 over 1. So to fix the negatives, if the denominator is negative, like less than 0, it multiplies the numerator and denominator by -1. So in this case, if you multiplied these, it would be -20 over -40. So since the denominator is negative, it would multiply both by -1, so it would turn into +20 over +40, and then you would simplify it. So that's how all this code works. And you can see if I run it, copy the sample input. Oh, sorry. Okay, if I copy this code and submit my solution here, it works. So that's all for today. That's how methods and constructors work in Java. Thank you for watching. Make sure if you have any other ideas or stuff you want to see, leave them in the comments and I'll make a video on that. So see you soon, and make sure to subscribe for more.